Life could and should be so much better. In this series of films, we'll be showing you how to unlock your potential so you can change yourself, your life, and the world. Our aim is to stimulate the next step forward in human evolution. Yes, that's a huge statement, but we know exactly how to make this happen. Human psychology is stuck or limited, despite all the rapidly improving technology which demonstrates that we can be intelligent. We now know for a fact that zillions of other planets exist beyond our own solar system, and a percentage of these, billions and billions and billions of them, will be in the habitable zone. Unless you're bogged down in an ultra-cautious mentality, somehow believing that life has only emerged on planet Earth and nowhere else in the whole universe, which sounds pompous, as if we're special, then the mind-boggling number of habitable planets out there must suggest the likelihood of life elsewhere. If we work on this assumption, then it's not unreasonable to think that there might be other intelligent life in the Milky Way galaxy and throughout the countless galaxies beyond. Taking into consideration the age of the universe, some or a lot of this intelligent life will be highly advanced, way ahead of our current level of evolution. This would place human beings as still relatively primitive or backward in comparison. We need to grow up and change. In this first film, we'll be going over the basic reasons why change is so desperately needed, wider galactic considerations aside. We'll also be getting straight down to business by outlining the shift in mindset that is necessary. This has to happen to enable real and significant progress. I'm guessing you're probably dissatisfied with what's on offer as normal. You're not impressed with the mediocrity and the mundane, and you get upset with what's wrong in the world. You don't want to get sucked into the rat race. It's soul-destroying to go to work, doing a job that's far from inspiring, earning money so you can spend it at the weekend, having fun to alleviate the boredom, or to save for that exotic holiday that'll get you away from it all for a couple of weeks, helping you to shut down or forget that you're wasting your life. Perhaps you're already trapped in this endless merry-go-round, unhappy but unsure of how to get off or what else to do. Or you might not yet have questioned or seen the true depth of what's wrong. You want your life to be more, to have deeper meaning and purpose. You're not alone. Many people feel this way. I was one of them, although most do little or nothing about it. And there's nothing wrong with you because you're trying to think outside the box. It's healthy to be a bit of an outsider or an outlier, to question what's what, to challenge the norm. To quote the famous Tibetan proverb, it's better to have lived as a tiger for a single day than as a sheep for 1,000 years. Everyone who's part of the normalised supposed-to-be life puts pressure on you to fit in, to conform. They don't want you to rock the proverbial boat because if you do, it'll make them feel uncomfortable, perhaps pushing them to question their lot. It's sometimes difficult to resist being sucked in. Daring to be different, standing apart from the crowd, isn't the easy route to take, but it is the best if you want life to be deeper and more meaningful. This dissatisfaction with what's normal leads to what we call the search for that something more. It's often vague and undefined, but you can't shake off a feeling inside that there must be something better than what's currently on offer. And there is more, much more. And that's what we'll be explaining in lots of detail. This searching can be expressed in many ways. It's all about unlocking your potential. It's often called personal development, or more traditionally, spiritual development. Some think of it as gaining better psychological health. Others experience it as a search for happiness or fulfillment. Many, understandably, want to make a difference, to help change the world. It's also seen as shifting towards a higher consciousness. However you think of it as, it's definitely a matter of psychology, finding greater meaning and purpose and being the best you can be. But potential is just potential, and it stays that way unless you know exactly how to unfold or develop it. Good intentions are not enough, and awareness mustn't be confused with achievement. We're world-leading pioneers in the psychology of attitude. We know exactly how you can make your dream come true, to be the best you can be. We know there's a much better way, a higher consciousness or deeper psychology, and that this represents the next step forward in human evolution. We know what it takes to be able to wake up every morning and be excited about the day ahead. What we know and say actually works. We've tried and tested it all, rigorously, repeatedly, over the past 40 years. It's totally practical and can be applied to anything you want to do. There's no bullshit. We use what we know in the practical area of wildlife conservation, because habitat destruction and species extinction are amongst the major problems in the world that urgently need solving. We've been outstandingly successful, and the key to our success is the deeper approach to psychology that we'll be covering in this series of films. We're proud to be different. We're genuine, and therefore we can use words like integrity without looking stupid or false. We've established and manage our own nature reserves in Sussex, England, and in South Africa, where we've got the huge Comsburg Wilderness Nature Reserve, which is 30,700 acres in size, or 17 miles across. We've erected 61 miles or 98 kilometres of perimeter fence around Comsburg at a height of 2.4 metres, doing all the work ourselves. This took one hell of a lot of effort to achieve prior to reintroducing the wild animals. Generally, 2 members of our team can achieve as much or more in a week than 20 typical staff on any other nature reserve or national park. We're more dedicated, determined and capable. And it's all a lot easier to manage because of our team's mature psychology. Previously, we also ran a medical clinic and other humanitarian aid projects in Sudan for 25 years, looking after thousands of Ethiopian and Eritrean refugees, plus countless Sudanese villagers. We do all of this deliberately working as non-paid professionals. We've demonstrated outstanding effectiveness and efficiency. As a comparison, the annual running costs of our medical clinic, which examined, diagnosed and treated up to 36,000 patients a year, were just a fraction of the expenditure of any similar project run by any other charity. The cost of everything, from buying the medical drugs and equipment, transporting it all to Sudan, and employing local medical staff, added up to no more than the salary of just one typical British charity office worker. The Sudanese government was highly impressed, pleased to find one organisation that was genuinely different. And the British government said that we made the best use of taxpayers' money by far. Again, what we know really works, and it's 100% practical. We're down to earth in our approach. To be clear, we're not religious and there's no belief involved whatsoever. It's just psychology. We fully recognise and respect freedom of choice, and you can use the majority of how to be the best you can be for whatever you can think of doing, good, bad or indifferent, because capability is unspecific. That said, we have a strong preference that what we know is ideally used to make life better for all, not just for yourself. I said we'd look at the basic reasons for why change is desperately needed, and we've already covered the justified dissatisfaction with the mundane and mediocre, leading to the search for something better. But the reasons don't stop there. From our perspective, all the horrendous suffering in the world is unnecessary. It's all basically caused by one fundamental underlying problem: the me or me first mentality that's everywhere and accepted as normal. This psychological flaw or root cause produces all the resulting dysfunction. You really have to think about this, looking at what's what, because it's far from being the normal perspective. It sounds simple, and in one way it's just that, but there's a lot involved. Everything needs to be rationally thought about, linked together and understood. This inevitably takes time to slot everything into place. To help understanding, we split all of the suffering around us into 3 categories. First, you've got what might be called personal suffering. There's insecurity, anxiety, self-pity, isolation, the hurtfulness of bitching and gossip, bullying, greed, financial debt, hatred, prejudice, boredom, comfort eating and obesity, anorexia and bulimia, depression, self-loathing and self-harm, alcohol abuse and alcoholism, plus drug abuse, and so on. Criminal activity is the second category. Murder, rape, child abuse, robbery and theft, fraud, kidnapping, arson, drunk driving, vandalism, assault, human trafficking, blackmail, domestic violence, etc., etc. Global crises include war, other armed conflicts, overpopulation, habitat destruction, extinction of species, climate change, pollution, absolute poverty, terrorism, cruelty to animals, torture, genocide, and more. This list isn't anywhere near complete, but you get the idea that there's a massive amount of suffering going on in the world. Go through each case, thinking about the root cause, and you'll eventually see that it always boils down to the everyday self-orientated psychology of me first as a culprit, directly or indirectly. It's dysfunction. There's divisiveness and disunity, a lack of deep togetherness. This produces friction, splits, animosity and misunderstandings. Personally, it's experienced as a cycle of ups and downs. The me-first mentality produces winners and losers, and there's a lot of dumbing down and distraction to minimise all of the resulting disappointment. We've excluded physical pain from illness and accidents in our list of suffering because this is an inherent part of living. That said, a fundamental shift in attitude and approach would hugely speed up medical research, as well as produce much better delivery of medical care. If you're finding yourself getting a bit upset or overwhelmed by all this harsh reality, then please don't worry, because it's a healthy response. You might struggle to get your head around this different way of thinking right now. Unfortunately, we can't explain everything instantly, but you'll increasingly understand it all as we work through this series of films, step by step. As a strategy for survival, the normalised me psychology isn't great. In fact, it's barbaric at worst and infantile or primitive at best. Yes, it's got us this far in terms of evolutionary survival, but at a heavy cost when all of the associated suffering is added up. And if you step back and take a wider look at things, it's astonishing how everyone accepts it all as normal, as an inevitable part of life. But it doesn't need to be like this. There's a much better way. We can change. Humans aren't at the end of their evolutionary path, just part of the way along. We can unfold our potential and grow up. Whilst that's sinking in a bit, and as this is the first film in this new series, I'd like to welcome you to our new studio. This is where the majority of the films will be shot, although we will occasionally be making some of them outside for a change of scenery. I'm sure you'll have noticed the chimps, which are here for a very good reason, but that's for another film. Technology can bring about sweeping changes on one level, but we're talking here about a much deeper change, a psychological one, that has to happen within the individual. And this fundamental change in human behaviour can only occur on a person-by-person basis. It's up to everyone to take on personal responsibility, which includes you and I. It's naive to think that the initiative will come from any government, because this simply won't happen, at least not until a process is already well underway. It'll only come about with the help of intelligent consideration and discussion. Pioneering role models need to blaze the trail, showing what's possible to be achieved, so that one day the masses can more easily get there on a purpose-built superhighway. So it's a long-term approach, looking far into the future, well beyond your lifetime. You have to be realistic. You have to think big. There's no shortcut, quick fix or magic wand. It is what it is, and it has to start sometime. There's only ever a series of nows. The time to act is now, and now, and now. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, followed by another and another. So this is where we need to start seriously looking at a mindset or paradigm shift. If you don't already know, paradigm is a useful word for describing the framework or set of ideas which determine our perspective. This, in turn, affects how we think, feel, and what we do. I'll give you 2 examples of a paradigm shift. People once believed that the world was flat, giving rise to the fear that ships might sail over the edge. We then worked out that the world was, in fact, a sphere, that it was more or less round, not flat. Likewise, it was once believed that the sun, moon, and everything else in the heavens above revolved around us. This was then disproved, and we dropped the arrogant idea that our planet was the centre of the universe. On both occasions, there was a significant shift in perspective. We similarly need a paradigm shift in psychology. We've given a simple name to the normal me mentality. We call it selfishness, or the self-orientated psychology. The word selfish is almost always misused because people limit it to the more obvious extremes of self-obsessed behaviour. But if you look up the dictionary definition, selfishness refers to any lack of consideration for others. In other words, me first, or me and mine before everyone and everything else. Selfishness has been totally normalised. It's almost never challenged or questioned. Within this self-orientated psychology, there's a wide range of differing behaviour, including selfless acts which occasionally occur when selfishness is temporarily suspended. An alternative exists that's considerably better, offering far greater psychological health and huge benefits for all. We simply call it non-selfishness. You can think of it as one for all for one. The perspective is very different. The starting point is different. It's a more mature or advanced psychological state, or a higher consciousness if you prefer. People have been reporting rare glimpses of a higher consciousness or greater reality, including a deeper understanding and love for all, for at least the past 3,500 years. Down the ages, these profound insights, ecstasies of unity, or mystical experiences have influenced religion, spirituality, philosophy, poetry, and beyond. Many have called for change. But the expected revolution in mind and heart hasn't happened. Humans remain stuck in the grips of small-mindedness and emotional dysfunction. The me-first mentality persists. If we're honest and we look at the facts, facing reality, then it's been a history of failure. Yes, there's been effort and lots of superficial lip service, but little else. It's almost as if we can't change. So what's gone wrong? Can we change? And if so, what's been missing? The problem has been twofold. Bits and pieces of genuine knowledge have been gained over the centuries, but it's nevertheless been incomplete. Furthermore, it's been polluted with irrelevant nonsense, added by well-meaning but nevertheless blind individuals. Institutions haven't helped by cherry-picking or rewriting available knowledge to suit their dubious objectives. The corruption of power has won out over the purity of truth. That's the first point. The second reason has been insufficient awareness about psychological avoidance and how this limits and distorts. We'll be looking at all of this in detail and much more during this series of films. You won't often hear the word hypocrisy being mentioned by those who claim to know something about personal development, simply because they're full of it, yet want to pretend otherwise. But if you're serious about unlocking your potential, the uncomfortable matter of hypocrisy simply cannot be ignored. If you do avoid it, you won't get anywhere worthwhile. Facing reality is absolutely crucial. It's easy to merely urge someone to be self-honest, but this is easier said than done. And what does it mean anyway? What's needed is an anti-hypocrisy test, a tool to help expose your contradictions or weaknesses. It's so easy to fool yourself and think you're better than you actually are. You need a mirror to reflect what you're conveniently ignoring. Our anti-hypocrisy test is actions speak louder than words, and this is the mother of all mirrors. It's reasonably straightforward to understand, and it's practical. Talk is cheap. It can even sound inspirational, giving you a temporary feel-good boost, but it doesn't achieve much, if anything. With actions speak louder than words, you have to translate your thoughts and words into what you actually do. There needs to be a real outer demonstration of your inner good intentions. And where this is lacking, bingo, you've revealed an area of pretense or posturing. We'll go into much more detail about this important area during the forthcoming films, but it's good to begin thinking about this now. Awareness certainly isn't the same as achievement, but it is a start or step in the right direction. Our approach is strictly no bullshit. We live what we say. The lack of an anti-hypocrisy test like actions speak louder than words shows up the charlatans. And, unfortunately, there are lots of people out there, and on YouTube, who really don't know what they're talking about. And they certainly don't live it, walking the walk. Again, talk is cheap. So be careful who you listen to, because you can be fooled. We've got 42 films planned for this series. Yes, I know that's a lot, but this subject of how to unlock or develop your potential isn't something that you can oversimplify. There's a lot to cover, both to introduce and then explain in greater detail, and then it must all be linked together. We've already produced a series of shorter films on some of the basic topics, which act as a condensed introduction to them. One's about escaping the rat race. We shot most of these films outdoors, often in lesser-known, stunning locations in the southwestern United States of America. The second film, which we actually made first, was done at our own Komsberg Wilderness Nature Reserve in South Africa. And there's also a making-of film to go with that series, which explains why I had a red nose most of the time. You'll also see me fluffing my lines. There'll be a link or two for these in the description below. You can also have a look at our 2 websites. There's one for Wildlife for All, which outlines our nature conservation projects. And there are more short films, including about how Komsberg has been ravaged by years of prolonged drought. One of these is Rain Dance, which takes the piss out of superstition, whilst showing some of Komsberg's beautiful places at the same time. Our own Victoria is the goddess of precipitation. The Human Potential Trust website provides a good overview of our no bullshit educational approach. We've got a number of interlinked essays on this website covering a range of big issues. You'll find them interesting and eye-opening, even helpful in some ways. Again, there'll be a link in the description below. If you're interested in getting involved with our work and joining our team, you'll find a dedicated page on both websites. We have interviews every year. If you want a bit more reading, visit our evolvefirst.org website. Again, there'll be a link below. So, in the next film, the second one in this series, we'll start getting into a bit of practical detail, explaining exactly how you can unlock your potential, how to change your life. As soon as it's available, there'll be a link to it in the description below. If you hit the subscribe button, also below, and the bell, you'll get a notification when new films are released. I'll see you again soon.